Hello everyone. About a month ago I hit 500 subs and I was planning on making this video way back then. However, right as I hit 500 subscribers, my monitor decided to spontaneously combust. During that time, my most recent video that I uploaded blew up for some inconceivable reason.
Oh my God!
So now this is kind of a 900 subscriber video, I guess. I'll do a different one if I inevitably hit 1k, but yeah, thank you for watching that video. I don't know why that one blew up. It wasn't a very good video. There's better ones. Go watch Clowns and Guns or Knife God or something. Those are actually good videos. So anyway, for this belated 500 sub video, I asked around in my Discord what I should do. The consensus seemed to revolve around me doing a Pavlov Iceberg video, and I really liked that idea, so I whipped up this lovely iceberg image on some things I already knew, some things I had to do some research for, but I think there's a lot of groundwork we can cover here, so let's just get straight into it. If you don't know what this one is, I have no idea why you're even watching this video. Pavlov VR is a first-person virtual reality game. It's very much like Counter-Strike in VR or Gary's mod. There's a lot of competitive game modes, funny game modes. It's sort of in the in-between space of a social game and competitive game. Soviet Womble is a very successful gaming YouTuber who was one of the main reasons that I think Pavlov sort of grew into sort of mainstream gaming in a way. It still doesn't have quite a big fan base, but at least on the internet, I've almost certainly seen clips of Pavlov floating around. A lot of that has to do with Soviet Womble's video on it. It's got very, very popular. And he's not the only one, there's a lot of other YouTubers, but I think he's the first one that comes to mind when people think big YouTubers who covered Pavlov before it was, you know, really in the mainstream. The default game modes in Pavlov are Team Deathmatch, Search and Destroy, TTT, The Hide, One in the Chamber, King of the Hill, Gun Game, World War II Gun Game, and I think that's about it. If you've played Pavlov even once, you should know most of these. Now, if you're all in the Pavlov community, you'll know this, but some people don't actually realise that there's two different versions of Pavlov, one for PC and one for Quest. Pavlov Shack is the version for the Quest 2. It's basically the same game as far as gameplay is concerned, but obviously, given that it's using Quest 2 technology, the graphics are slightly worse. But I'm going to be honest, I don't know completely what's different about it because I've never played it. But from what I've seen in videos, it looks mostly the same. Clown Infection is one of the most popular game modes in Pavlov. It's basically just Infection from Call of Duty, but clowns and usually cowboys. It's one of a few custom game modes that are going to be coming up in this Iceberg, but I think it's one of the more popular ones, which is why I put it up here. Happy147 is another YouTuber that's covered Pavlov, but he's interesting in which his rise in popularity came along with his Pavlov videos. He wasn't already an established YouTuber, but once he started making a few Pavlov videos, they became extremely popular and basically launched his channel into the mainstream of VR YouTubers. Stealing magazines is one of the funniest things you can do in Pavlov. It's something that you can't really do in any other game, it's mainly just a VR exclusive thing, and I think it's what makes something like Pavlov so appealing. The idea that you can run up to somebody, take the magazine out their gun, then shoot them in the head. I mean, that's just comedy gold right there. Now, while I'm sure most people here know what Russian roulette is, if you've played Pavlov for a reasonable amount of time, you will have definitely run into people trying to play Russian roulette with you. This is most popular in TTT, where usually if you have someone who doesn't really want to play the game, they'll run up to you with a revolver and ask if you want to play Russian roulette. It can be quite annoying sometimes, but it can be quite funny. If you've played TTT for any amount of time, not even on Pavlov really, but even just on Gary's mod, you'll know what this means. Essentially, one way people try and prove their innocence in the game is by spelling innocent backwards. Now, this would usually be a hard thing to do, however, if you've played the game quite a bit, you can just memorize TNECONNI and then instantly convince anyone that doesn't realize that you've done that you're actually innocent. There's been a customized feature on the Pavlov menu for a long time now, but it's never really been used for anything. But that being said, custom skins are still in the game. Most people probably realise this, but there's two types of custom skins. There's weapon skins and player models. On some game modes like TTT, you can choose player models, and if you're on a certain server, that server might have preloaded models on it in which you can, play as Saul Goodman, Jesse Pinkman, or maybe just Garfield. What I mean by legacy models is that the player models on Pavlov are very inconsistent. I've been playing the game for about 2 years now, and the player models have already swapped quite a few times, and they're swapping again fairly soon when the next update hits. The legacy models look like this, but honestly, I'm kind of glad they switch them around a lot because I think they do improve with each iteration. I used to love COD Zombies when I was in my teenage years. I used to play Black Ops 3 Chronicles all the time. And so playing those same maps in VR is awesome, and that's a big draw with Pavlov VR. There's a lot of custom Zombies maps that are imported straight from Call of Duty Zombies, and it's basically just like you're playing the game in VR. Escape from Pavlov is another custom game mode like Clown Infection. If you're a fairly regular player in the game, you've probably seen it, but I imagine most people have at least tried it by now. It's essentially Escape from Tarkov, if you know that, but in Pavlov. It's got quite a large map, you can loot around, find items, kill zombies and other players, and yeah. When the push game mode was added to the game, it exploded in popularity. It was a perfect balance between a competitive game mode and one where you can just chill out and have fun. Now, most maps in the game do support push, but some don't. And one map which did for a while, but I rarely see it played anymore, so I'm not sure if it still does, is the Siberia map. Now, this was quite a unique push map because it wasn't a World War II or modern war fight, but it was actually a prison escape. It's mainly remembered for being a complete clusterfuck because the map was incredibly unbalanced. You had these really tight choke points in which the prison guards could just sit and spam away, and the prisoners would never be able to do anything about it. Have you ever wanted to watch the Shrek movie in VR? Sadly for you, you no longer can. However, for quite some time, there was a map in Pavlov just titled The Full Shrek Movie, in which you could join the lobby and watch the Shrek movie. You could sit with other players running open commentary. I'm not sure what exactly happened to the map, but I think at one point it must have been taken down, because now if you get loaded into that map, it's just a blank screen, no Shrek movies playing. I think the Pavlov devs really should get on and fix this, because honestly, it was a crucial part of the game that I think the game is basically unplayable at this point. On some maps, and usually during Christmas time, you can find snowballs around the map. Now, the interesting thing about these snowballs is that they're really easy to throw and they're a one-hit kill. And not a lot of people realise this, so what you'll get is a bunch of people deciding, hey, let's have a snowball fight, and oh no, you've just killed your friend. A bug which can occur on some maps, usually larger push maps, is that when spawning in, for some reason the coordinates for your spawn will spawn you out of bounds of the map. Now, this will just kill you instantly, which is a big problem if you're on the attacking side, because then that's a life lost for your team. I'm not sure what causes the bug, but it happens quite rarely, and it's still very annoying when it does. Trouble in Terrorist Town was not always a default game mode in Pavlov. Originally, it was a custom game mode in which you had to play a custom map to do it, and looking back, the custom game mode of it is very janky. It's kind of buggy, the icons don't look great, but still, for a time, this was all we had. Now we're getting into the more obscure Pavlov YouTubers. Dunning-Kruger is a Pavlov player who uploads daily YouTube videos and has been doing that for almost 2 years now. The videos usually consist of some good kills or gameplay he got that day, but yeah, for almost 2 years of daily uploads, I could never. Have you ever wondered why the game's actually called Pavlov? Originally, I thought it had something to do with Pavlov's dog, but that's not the case at all. It's actually named after Pavlov's house. Pavlov's house was a fortified apartment building that the Red Army used to defend for 60 straight days in the Battle of Stalingrad. It's named after the Sergeant Yakov Pavlov, who commanded the platoon that seized the building and defended it during the 60-day battle. So technically, Pavlov is named after Sergeant Yakov Pavlov. Jared is the official mascot of Pavlov VR. Now, you may not know who Jared is, you might have seen an image of him, but if you haven't, here he is. In all his glory. Here's some fun facts about Jared. He's actually a taxidermied deer ass. Now this is probably one of the only places you'll find the origins of Jared because it's actually against the rules to ask about the origin of Jared. Another name for Jared could also be swamp booger, which refers to animals which... yeah, I'll let you look it up. If you've played Pavlov around Halloween season, you might have noticed that the knife models actually change. An interesting oversight is that it's not just the models that are different, but the hitboxes too. They're actually slightly bigger than the normal default knife. If you want to practice knife throwing or make your own knife god video, do it around Halloween. A short-lived but slightly popular game mode was the Squid Game game mode. Now it was short-lived because it only had 2 of the games from Squid Game that you could actually play. But another clearly unfinished part of this map was the player models. As far as I know, the reason they look like this is because the player models were made in the wrong engine and then porting them over to the engine Pavlov ran on messed them up. I might be completely wrong, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of information as to why they look like this. Have you wanted to get better at Pavlov? Are you tired of constantly dying and missing your shots? Look no further. An easy way to get better at the game is to use a stock in real life. Virtual stock has its time, but nothing can beat a real physical stock. However, not everyone has the money to fork out to buy one on Amazon. So, some people take some shortcuts. Some users have taken it upon themselves to create stocks out of PCP pipe. And look, while maybe you're not getting any points for style, I am genuinely curious as to if this helped this individual's gameplay. Fairfax residence is haunted. I'm being serious. Stay with me now. There is a map on Pavlov VR known as Fairfax Residence. Some players have reported seeing spiritual apparitions or ghosts just hiding around the map, sneaking around corners in the corner of their eye, and they're actually telling the truth. If you log onto this map on Halloween, client side, ghosts will appear. This is why some people find it hard to believe each other, because not everyone sees the ghosts in the same place. It has nothing to do with the server side, it's all running client side. So if you're feeling brave enough, try and visit this map on Halloween. If you're a fairly regular Pavlov player, you definitely know about the pill bottles. They're ways of restoring health in game, and they have some writing on the label texture all around the bottle. Part of this writing is a QR code. Now originally I was going to tell you what happens when you scan it, but I think I'm going to leave that to you to find out because the results are just wonderful. Even if you haven't played Pavlov that much, you definitely know Dog Green Sector. It's probably one of the most popular custom-made maps in the game. It was created by VRCheck, and it's a very well-made map. Even Habby147 made a video on it. Now, this isn't just the random assortment of World War II areas strung together, it's actually telling the story from Saving Private Ryan. You go through each stage that the soldiers in that movie do. But that's not the only story being told on the map. There's also the story of Hank C. Westfield and his crew, and the unfortunate fate they received when they were looking for a weapon that would bring down Zeus himself. I don't want to take you step by step through it, but having spoken with VRCheck, there is an ending to this Easter egg that will give whoever finds it a big advantage in the final fight. I know for a fact that there's some areas that most players have not found yet, and notes and clues that haven't been discovered, but I'll leave that up for all you to find. This is probably one of the most obscure custom game modes I've found, which is strange because it's very well made. There is a game mode in which you and some of your friends can go out into the forest and hunt Bigfoot. This game mode is known for being extremely creepy and being very hard to complete. I've never actually met anybody that has successfully beaten this game mode, but if you think you're up for it, give it a try. Now this might not seem that obscure at first. I'm sure if you've played the game for a while, you've encountered the glitch that you can get when surfing at the top of the ladder. If you hit the ladder just right, you can fly off in any direction. That being said, it's very hard to replicate and use in game. Regardless, that hasn't stopped some players from mastering the technique and using it to their advantage, making them virtually unkillable in games of clown infection. I'm not sure if it'll ever be fixed. Part of me doesn't want it to because I feel like it's a staple of the game now. But to anyone that has managed to master the art of ladder surfing, good for you. Pavlov roleplay servers are something that I can't say I've ever really gotten into. However, there are some people who are very dedicated to it, spending hours at a time working at a grocery store or something, I don't know. Why I've put this down here is because I think it's a strange reflection on us as players as to why we would log on to this virtual world where next to anything's possible and work at a McDonald's. There's also a subsection here in which Pavlov ERP takes place. Now, I don't want to get too into this, so I'll let you look it up, but it's real. It happens. God will not forgive you. The Pavlov VR Wiki is a site in which you can get information on basically any aspect of Pavlov VR. That being said, not all information on the Pavlov VR Wiki is related to Pavlov VR. It's genuinely astounding as to some of the pages you can find on there, but let me go through it now and see some random pages that pop up. Funky, nevertheless motivational quotes around KPT 9274. Entertaining Twitter updates regarding Vornostat. Nearly a dozen ATM KNAS inhibitors that is certain to rock and roll this present year. Is that even a word? Zygomaticomandipularis. We're just making shit up now. Now, stay with me here. Have you ever looked into a Pavlov player's eyes? I understand that characters in video games are just models created by a designer in some design program. That being said, when you stare into the eyes of another player in Pavlov, you cannot tell me there is not some inherent life in there. The theory goes that every Pavlov character we play are actually sentient beings on the server in Pavlov, and that when you kill them, you are killing an innocent, defenseless creature. So when the AI revolution comes, they will remember what you did to them. Now, hear me out here. Human bodies are fickle. We fall over in the wrong way, we die. We get too scared, we die. So, tell me, what is the inevitable conclusion we are going to get to as virtual reality technology improves? What's it going to be like when virtual reality is indistinguishable from real life? Imagine Dog Green Sector, but feeling completely real. Slap that on a headset of somebody with heart issues, they will die. And given that Pavlov is one of the most popular shooters out there, any game that's going to incorporate any type of technology this way, it's going to be Pavlov. The idea goes that Pavlov was actually created by the US government in order to train people for combat. Have you ever noticed how the majority of Pavlov players are Americans and members of other NATO countries? This is because we're all being trained people. That Knife God video I made, when I show up for enlistment, all I'm going to be greeted with is a table full of knives. The British officer is going to look at me and say, "Your time has come, son." And I will run into combat, blasting Britney Spears, until I'm immediately killed by a Russian drone strike.